who talks about how the education system educates children out of being curious.
Oh, right.
And so I think what happens is that when we're younger, because we're so curious, it's almost like time dilates. Time feels like it goes slower and the experiences are deeper because
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So time dilates, which makes the time go slower, and our experiences are deeper, which light up our brain more.
Yes. And like if you think like when we're younger, it's like there's so many firsts happening all the time. First time that we're talking, first time we're walking, getting on a bike. Every year we start in school is completely exhilarating experience. A new teacher, new friends, new people, new skills that we're learning constantly. And so when we're younger, time tends to go slower and we have these deep experiences. But as we age, we tend to get more algorithmic in our lives. So we wake up, we eat, we go to work, we scroll, we eat, we come back, we go to bed, and we repeat, right? And so we're not doing as many new things in our days. We're not...
What does that do to our brain when we're not doing as much newness?
It flattens our imagination, it flattens our curiosity, it flattens our creativity, it flattens the energy that we experience.
How does that impact us when we're flatter?
I think it impacts us because it basically, it gets us into ruts. It gets us into, our brains love novelty. Our brains love engaging in new activities and new experiences and developing skills and learning and iterating and experimenting. And when we're not doing that, we're gravitating to this low energy brain and body state. And I think that's why so many of us sort of gravitate to just kind of sit on our couches and not get out of our houses. I mean, it's sort of like this evolutionary wiring, this evolutionary inheritance, but we have this other evolutionary inheritance, which is our, the neuroplasticity in our prefrontal cortex and our ability to light up our brains at any moment by really just taking a step forward, by thinking about the other possibilities that exist and letting that illuminate us and really tuning into our curiosity, which is this incredible power that we all have to just light us up at any moment. I'll just give you an example. So I recently got, and this is just one of infinite possibilities, really, I recently purchased a microscope that has a screen and this little tube, and I can take it around with me. And I take it on walks around my neighborhood, and I put it like on a tree, I'll put it on a rock, I'll put it on a leaf.
Curiosity developing.
Yeah. And I'll just sort of zoom in and take a look. And it's just, there's so much there, the fractals of everything,
right?
Like it's like what you see, there's a layer behind it and a layer behind it and a layer behind it. And just that exercise just illuminates, it just like fires up my curiosity. I start thinking about, oh, look at that structure and why is it like that? And all these questions start coming to my mind. And I just feel there's so many things we can do on a daily basis to fire up our curiosities. And when we do that, our brains literally glow orange on an MRI. They just light up.
Curiosity changes everything.
Everything.
And I think what you also talk about is that there's so many things. Your work resonates so much with my work because it is about disrupting generations, and you are the far-reaching impacts of this for the world, I think, are what you're talking about. And I started something, which is, I think, I love that you ask the favor that anyone who uses the lit tools is for the highest good and to serve family, friends, and the world at large, which so aligns with my reason for doing the work that I do and for sharing what I do and with clients and with, social media. The output that I put, the videos that I put is to, which is to disrupt the multi-generational dysfunction. So I love that you say that to people because ultimately it sounds like your goals, your intentions, I think are better words, are to impact the world at large.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel it. I think that, there's, I've just noticed that when I start to develop awareness, when I start to take steps to really, and I've been working really hard on this to create steps where I can create the space between the stimulus and the response. And what I mean by that is where,
create the
let's say,
space between the stimulus and the response. Keep going.
Yeah, like where, let's say somebody says something to me, or I'm in a conversation and I feel the stimulus to immediately respond with something, or I feel
Which
an
is from
emotion,
limbic, very much a survival
of just to jump in and say something. And now I'm able to say, okay, Jeff, just sit with that. Like, okay, you feel it, you feel this impulse to say something. Will you feel that impulse 5 seconds from now? Will you feel the impulse?
You might, but you might not, right?
But I might not. But often what happens is the impulse starts to fade, right? That's what typically happens. Not always, but most of the time, it actually starts to fade, and then it goes away. And it's just almost like forgotten in the moment of what I was triggered. And then I can feel like I'm able to listen more to other people. And when I do that, I feel I give off better energy. I notice that the people around me are now resonating more with that energy. And I can't help but think that they're then bringing that energy forward to the other people that they meet or interact with that day.
You gave them some grace, and they're more likely to give others some grace.
Yeah. And we all have that power to create this ripple effect in our lives. And to me, it's just so empowering to be able to, and it's just such a such a simple thing to just be able to, even just once a day, not say the thing that comes into your mind, right? It's just so empowering.
Think about that.
Something comes in your mind and you're just like, okay, I'm just not going to say it, and I'm going to see what happens, right?
I think that's powerful. And
it's like a win, you know?
It improves relationships, and it really is a win.
It's a huge win. And people can tell, like, people can tune into the cues that we get from each other.
Right.
And when people sort of, because what happens is I think in relationships, we start to learn other people's patterns. And when someone else changes their pattern, we pick up on it.
Right.
And I think we start processing that, especially in our subconsciousness. Yeah. And I think that has power to influence people in very positive ways.
And you say there's an evolution going on that is driving us away from selfishness towards self-awareness.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Well, I know that just in the conversations that I've been having with other people, and just sort of tuning into, what I see on social media. And sure, there's a lot of polarization out there. There's a lot of negativity, and I try to sort of see everything, like not just get sucked into that, because it's so easy to be sucked into that. And then,
and if your brain's not lit, and if it's low energy, you're going to get sucked into
get sucked into it. And I realized that it's sort of like, often our attention is like a pen light, and we're only looking at this one little speck of all the possible things that we can observe.
Right.
And when we start to sort of step back and say, okay, there's some polarization over here, but what's happening over here and over here and over here? And we start sort of, collecting the data, we start sort of, observing what's happening around. I just realized that there are so many people that feel like something is not right. They feel like there's a different way of being, a different way of, and people are starting to tune into it. And just by, I've been going around with the book and doing a bunch of launches in various cities, and just by the questions that I've been getting, I just see like there is this like awakening, and people want something better. They want something more. They want something different. And I think, in some of the big issues that we're seeing today, I can't help but think that, just as an example, that there is this alignment, like people want justice, for example, right?
Yeah.
Like often in and when I look at the issues which people are really polarized on, it seems to me that people on either side just want the same thing, which is justice, but yet there's injustices that are being done on both sides, and no one sort of, and it's messy, right, to deal with it. But there is this common ground that I see as well, of people just wanting, like people generally want something good.
Right.
And it's sort of, we're looking at it through this negative lens, but there is this alignment that we're ignoring, I think.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I mean, you really do bring the work that you're doing, and you contextualize it in terms of the larger world that we're living and the situation that we're living in. And I really find that your book is so helpful to life, to people. And people feel powerless, I think, very much. That is what I realize. And I feel like your book teaching people to enliven their brain, to light up their brain, will give people a measure of empowerment. Does that resonate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, one of the things I think about too is that it's like nobody can take these things away from us. Like we have
The power. Yeah.
to stimulate our minds, to flood them with these positive neurotransmitters,
Right.
and generate this sense of wellness, to feel connected with nature, to feel gratitude.
That's where we can have our power.
We can have our power. Yeah. And it's all, we all have this incredible human machinery. We're using a tiny fraction of it. And it's like nobody can take our prefrontal cortex and our neuroplasticity and our ability to flood our brains with these neurotransmitters away from us. And we all are at the switches. And so it's just up to us to find these little on-ramps to just experiment with and start, you know, getting on this path towards illumination.
And so don't get seduced by that survivalist thinking constantly. Don't get seduced by that. Find ways to lower the activation, to lower the triggers, to lower the fear, to lower the anxiety, to lower the self-doubt, to increase the self-compassion. That's how we get past this limbic fight, flight, freeze, war. I call it wartime mentality versus peacetime mentality. And I'm like, get out of the wartime mentality, whether war is going on or not, and get into some peacetime, because at war, we don't create so much. We're just surviving. In peacetime, we create poetry and creativity and lovemaking and beauty and all these things. But it requires us to shift our nervous system from sympathetic wartime mentality to parasympathetic peacetime mentality.
Yeah. I mean, one example that just jumps out to me is you know, sometimes I'll send an email and someone won't respond right away.
Big trigger for so many.
And so it's a trigger. And then I start thinking like, okay, what did I say wrong? Oh, I shouldn't have said this. I start analyzing the words. I'm like, you know,
so relatable.
And so what I've been able to do through the lit tools or the lit lens is I've been able to shift to say, okay, why am I having this reaction? And I've sort of moved it to the zone where it's like, my answer is because I care. And caring for me is a quality that I want. That's an important quality. And so I am reacting this way because I truly care about the connection with the person that I'm sending this email to. And to me, I think that's a beautiful thing, that I care. And so I'm able to switch from shaming myself to acknowledging the reason that I'm feeling this way, the reason that I'm triggered is because I actually care about making a connection with the person that I'm, you know, trying to connect with.
So the lit, a concrete lit step. I want to just offer something concrete. We've offered a variety of nature and creativity and curiosity and so many things and my gosh, so many things. But this example is so relatable. So many people get this anxiety that occurs when you lob an energy of communication to someone and then you get nothing. You know, people get ghosted or they get sort of slow response or whatever it is. And then you can go down a rabbit hole of feeling anxious and feeling like you're not, you know, self-doubt. What did I say? What did I, you know, all this stuff. So a lit tool for that would be what? Self-investigation and really going, what's happening here with me? What is it that you're thinking would be the best thing to share with others when they encounter that particular trigger?
Yeah, what's really helped with me, and I think there's
so many roads,
possibilities, right? But what really helped me is just stepping back and really pressing pause.
So pausing is one
to think like, okay, I'm being triggered.
Self-talk,
right?
Okay,
I'm being triggered. There's something happening here,
right?
And why? Why am I being?
What's this all about?
What's this all about?
Right.
And
self-investigation.
And to me, it kind of comes back to just this sense of like, I'm feeling this way because I care. Like, I really want to connect with this person. I really want to, you know, feel something there. And by
more self-compassion, it sounds like too.
I think that's a big part of it, you know, and sort of recognizing that, because I think in this society, this digital world, and with all of these algorithms, it's like when I'm, out there, if I go back to riding my bike and
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
good
yeah.
morning to
Yeah.
everybody, right? Generally, when I look at somebody, they're kind of heads down and they're in their own world. And I think in many ways that's an unnatural place for humans to be, because for tens of thousands of years we lived in these villages of not that many people, and we all just relied on each other. We relied on the
wow.
deep connection with each other, and so it's unnatural to be in this state where we're alone
Yeah.
and where we're just consumed by our own thoughts.